Every week from here on out for this 2013 NFL season, I'm going to give you a weekly prediction video of who I think is going to win and lose. I'm going to put all my picks every week in the description box down below, and you're more than welcome in the comments section to go against me and see if you can beat the Schleg Daddy. No point spreads this year, just strictly winners or losers. The format of this video every week is going to be something along the lines of a couple of games of interest, or maybe what a theme is for the week, an upset special, and a game of the week. So let's get started. You've got a solid slate of games in week number 2 of this 2013 NFL season. There's 3 games that kind of have some interest for me, other than my Bears, obviously. I won't talk about the Bears-Vikings game. But St. Louis traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. The Rams struggled a little bit early in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals before finding a way to come back and end up winning that game. The NFC West is going to be a very tough division this year. The Atlanta Falcons looked very sluggish in week number 1, losing to the Saints. Not a good way to kick off the season, not a good loss at all. There's a chance that the St. Louis Rams could actually come into Atlanta and surprise the Falcons, but I'd find it very hard to believe at this point that the Falcons will start off the season 0-2. Matt Ryan usually plays well indoors, in particular at home, so I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons to beat the St. Louis Rams. The Dallas Cowboys traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a matchup that dates back like 50 years, back to when the Kansas City Chiefs were the Dallas Texans, and they were sharing the city with the Dallas Cowboys. You've got 2 teams here. You've got the Cowboys, who I think have a chance to be the division champions in the NFC East, and you've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think are going to be one of the most improved teams in this 2013 NFL season. They beat up on the Jaguars last week. Alex Smith did not look phenomenal, but again, they were facing the Jaguars, who are probably going to be the runaway winners in the Jadeveon Clowney Teddy Bridgewater sweepstakes. As a result, the Chiefs did more than enough to win, and win convincingly. The Cowboys tried to make it difficult on themselves, tried to make it interesting, but still found a way to beat the Giants. So you've got 2 1-0 teams. One of these teams is going to start off the season 0-2, and I'm going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the way this team looked in week number 1, even though I felt Alex Smith was still a bit on the shaky side. They've got a better direction with Andy Reid. It's a talented team, and Arrowhead is still a tough place to play no matter what anybody tells you, so I'll take the Kansas City Chiefs. The other matchup I'm watching closely is the Miami Dolphins traveling to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the Indianapolis Colts. 2 quarterbacks from that great 2012 quarterback class. Ryan Tannehill for the Dolphins, Andrew Luck for the Colts. Now, when I look at this matchup, I look at 2 teams that have the ability to potentially be wildcard teams and maybe even challenge for their division race, even though I think the Colts are going to come a little bit more back to earth this year. The bottom line is I look at this matchup and I'm looking at the quarterbacks. That's what it is. I'm looking at Tannehill and I'm looking at Luck. And I'm looking to see if Tannehill can step up to the level of performance of an Andrew Luck. Is he going to be able to get Mike Wallace more involved? Is he going to get more support in the running game from a combination of Lamar Miller and Daniel Thomas? Is Andrew Luck just going to go in to his home stadium and throw all over the Miami Dolphins? I think the Colts will win this game, but I'm hoping this is going to be a very good game, and I actually think it'll be a very close game. My upset special of the week might catch a lot of you by surprise, and maybe I'm just kind of throwing a dart out there, but to be fair, it's only week 2 of the season, so it's kind of up for grabs at this point. But I really think the Tennessee Titans have a very good chance to go into Houston and beat the Texans. Let's face it, the Titans looked really good, especially on the defensive side of the football, against the Steelers in week number 1. Yes, I don't think the Steelers are going to be very good this year, but the Titans came out and won in a semi-dominant fashion in week number 1, and that's impressive. Whereas the Houston Texans struggled against what I think is a very mediocre team in the San Diego Chargers and really had to rally late to come back and win that game. I think the pickings are there for the Tennessee Titans to be able to go in week 2 to Houston and surprise everybody and take an early lead in that division, starting off 2-0 and handing the Texans their first loss of the year. I think Chris Johnson is due for a good game. I like the weapons that the Titans have at wide receiver with Kenny Britt and Washington and Kendall Wright. They've got some weapons for Jake Locker to play with. He needs to step up and he needs to play well, and I anticipate he will this week. I think the Titans' defense is a little improved. Their offensive line is definitely improved, and I expect him to go in there. It might only be by 2 or 3 points, but a win is a win. Call me crazy, but I was not that impressed with the Texans in week number 1. Sure, they turned it on late in the game, but the fact is they went down big to the freaking Chargers early, a team that is not going to be very good this year. Not that impressive. The pickings are there. They're ripe for an upset. Give me the Tennessee Titans over the Houston Texans. I think most people would be in relative agreement that by far the game of the week for week 2 has to be the Sunday night matchup. San Francisco 49ers traveling to Quest Field to take on the Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be a great game. You would expect a very physical matchup dominated by defense, or so you would believe. But this is going to be an early season indication of who's probably going to be the favorites to win the NFC West throughout the course of the season. I look at the San Francisco 49ers. They looked all right, especially offensively in week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. But defensively, they were not all that good. It seems like some of the holes that I thought they had in their defensive unit, even if it's a borderline elite unit, they were exposed again in week number 1, and it's going to be incumbent upon Russell Wilson and that Seahawks offense to be able to take advantage of some of those weaknesses, primarily being that secondary. Eric Reed played very well in week number 1, but the fact of the matter is they still gave up a lot of yards and a lot of points to the Packers. So it's a unit that still is developing and still needs to get better, that secondary anyways. But Reed was definitely impressive in week number 1, no question about it. As far as the Seahawks, they played a very hard-fought physical game against the Carolina Panthers. Ugly wins are ugly wins, but they're still wins, and that's what matters. And what impresses me about the Seahawks, especially when you look at last year and the way they finished last year off, was they had the ability to blow people out like they did the 49ers in their second matchup of the year, or they had the ability to win close games, like they did in week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. Bottom line is San Francisco is going to an incredibly tough place to play against a really good team, an elite team, a team that I frankly think is a little bit better. I know a lot of people are very high on the San Francisco 49ers. I get it. I understand it in a way, but in another way I don't. I do think the Seattle Seahawks are going to find a way to beat them. I hope this is a game where the score is like 24-20 or 24-17. I don't want to see like a 13-6 game on the Sunday night game. That's all I'm saying. I do expect it to be a really good game. Well, let's hope it is.